Please, we'll be starting up shortly. Good evening, and welcome to the Lowell Planning Board meeting for Thursday, February 18th, 2016. Tonight, we have one public hearing, and that's for a public hearing for a site plan review zoning ordinance. In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 5, the Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinance for the City of Lowell with respect to Appendix A, therefore entitled Zoning. The amendment would alter Article 2, definitions by inserting a definition for a private school in Section 11.4, Site Plan Review, Administration, and Procedures by adding a requirement for an analysis of sidewalk infrastructure within 1,000 feet of the property. This matter was sent to us by the city clerk. The advertisement was at the regular meeting of the City Council held on Tuesday, January 12, 2016. The following ordinance was given the first reading and referred to the Planning Board for public hearing. And that was the article I just read. And so what is requested, let's see what else we got. Oh, we also have a letter from the city solicitor dated to the city manager and referred to the Planning Board and the City Council. As requested by the City Council, attaches the zoning amendment which will require the creation of adequate sidewalks surrounding newly built renovated schools which are not operated by Lowell School Department to be compliant with the site plan review process. And it mentions how, under Chapter 40A, under Mass General Laws, Section 8, again. So, planning staff gave us comments that at a meeting the Lowell City Council, Councilors Belanger and Mercier filed a joint motion for the purpose of reviewing an amendment to the Lowell zoning ordinance that would establish the following. Create a definition for private school entity, establish a requirement for private schools to provide an adequate pedestrian environment, for students who travel to and from school when applying for site plan approval. So so what we have tonight, I know there's some confusion on whether there was a project here tonight in regards to Douville, but that's not before us tonight. The only thing we have is this new zoning amendment that was referred from the council to us, requesting us to consider that if any school comes before the planning board in the future, if any private school, not by the City of Lowell Public School, that it have to be required for a site plan review and would have to add the requirement for the analysis of a sidewalk infrastructure within 1,000 feet of that property. So reading the references on those matter, does anybody here this evening want to speak in regards to the zoning ordinance? Anybody in regards to the zoning ordinance want to speak? Anybody want to speak? Sure. Just come to the microphone and state your name, please, sir, and your address, if you would.
Bill McMahon, 79 Toppin Road. And the question I have is, if a private school facility needs the added sidewalk to be built, are they going to get like eminent domain power to do that under the City of Lowell?
That would be above our purview. That would be totally up to the City Council. So basically what it would be was, when they have a site plan review, now they have to come before us, and if this new zoning ordinance, which comes to us for recommendation, then goes back to the City Council for final approval or denial, is that we would have to make sure that they have sidewalk infrastructure within 1,000 feet of the property. So how they get that 1,000 feet, I'm not sure, whether if they do, but they'd be required to get it. Whether the city be willing to work with an applicant and take something by eminent domain, if it was, which basically, usually eminent domain is taken by the city or the state and wouldn't be a private matter. So usually this requirement here would be for a private school. So usually a private school could not take any property by eminent domain. It'd have to be a state government that would take by eminent domain, either the state or the city or town. So I don't see how that would amend here. This would just make sure that they have to have these extra sidewalks before, there would be a requirement they have to meet when they came before us for site plan to make sure that they had the infrastructure within 1,000 feet of the property to make sure there's adequate pedestrian-friendly walkway for students and staff or whoever else.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions or want to be heard on the zoning ordinance? Hearing none at this time. Any of the board members have any questions? No concerns, any comments?
I have a comment.
Sure.
I think it's a good thing to do. It just strengthens the public safety policy in the city of Lowell and improves the environment around any school that might want to come here. That's all, just, I think it's a good thing.
Okay. Another note I have here from our staff is, so if this would be required, the proposed amendment would require the applicant to provide an inventory of the sidewalk infrastructures within 1,000 feet of proximity.
Yeah.
So they'd have to show us all the sidewalks within 1,000 feet of that to the proposed development. The requirement will also apply to infrastructures in all directions of the property. Whatever improvement plan is generated by the applicant would need to be approved by the city engineer and the city transportation engineer. Subsequently, if the project were approved, the sidewalk improvement plan would automatically be incorporated as a condition of approval. Then it goes on and says this type of requirement would only apply to private schools and not public schools. Christine, does staff have any more comments on this, or just basically spells it out that the city council made a motion, referred it to us, it's been okayed by the law department, it was sent to the city clerk, then sent to the manager to us to make sure we follow through with all the correct procedure to get it before us,
That's about it.
and then we make, vote on recommendation, then we'll go back to the council. There's a date set for the council meeting, do you know? They told you?
Yes, the second meeting in March, I believe.
Okay, all right. So,
I can confirm that and get back to you.
okay, yeah, so for the matter, this matter, it only comes to us for a recommendation, which is a non-binding recommendation, whether we vote for or against. Any other comments from board members? Mr. Bichette, I'll turn it over to you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just in referencing the ordinance itself, too, for anybody that questioning the kind of the process or the procedure, it does spell out in the ordinance, which would be, it's going to be added to Section 11, which will be 11.4.17B, and it spells out that the city's Division of Development Services, Transportation Engineer, and City Engineer shall prepare an evaluation of the adequacy of the sidewalk access, which shall include but not be limited to necessary new sidewalks, sidewalk repair and maintenance. And then item number 2, such evaluation shall be adopted as a condition of the site plan review approval, and construction of such necessary new sidewalks, sidewalk repair, maintenance shall be the responsibility of the applicant. All construction and/or repair shall be to city standards, and I think that's important to understand. And it has to be approved by the city engineer, so it can't be haphazard sidewalks put in on the site. It has to meet city standards. So obviously, that has to be looked at, and it would be incorporated as a condition. And as Mr. Lockhart noted, this board had spent a lot of time on the charter school on Middlesex Street, trying to address this issue, and we didn't have anything in place in the zoning ordinance, and we were able to actually get some concessions from the developer and able to address this concern. But obviously, it's something that, and also the expense is to be borne by the applicant as well. So again, another important element in the ordinance. So it's a good tool for the planning board from our perspective. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just one other thing I want to add before we go on. It does mention under private school, it says, any educational facility serving school-aged children between the ages of grades K through 12, which is not operated by the City of Lowell School Department. This definition shall include any privately operated school, whether religious or secular, in any charter school, regardless of whether such institutions are set up as nonprofit, not-for-profit, or for-profit entities. So it would be limited to K through 12. Rick, do you have any questions or comments? Dick?
I was not on the board at the time of the charter school on Middlesex Street discussion, but I am familiar with and did, monitor what was going on there, and I think this is an excellent tool for the city to ensure, proper safety measures. And the other thing about it is that it doesn't necessarily dictate what needs to be done, but it assures that it's properly addressed and will then become a condition of the site plan. So I would be in favor on that basis.
Thank you. Mr. Boyle?
I think let's see, requiring the applicant to submit this report, I think that's very wise. It really saves a step, because now we know that that information is going to be coming in with the application. What happened on the last one is they submitted their application materials, and then they came and we told them that at the meeting, they had to do one of these studies. And so then they went out and did the study, and it just, pushed everything back. Having that right up from the beginning it'll just make the process more efficient, better for us, better for the applicant, better for everybody. Number 2, under the requirement, such evaluation shall be adopted as a condition, shall. It's a bit of a shift in authority from the board to staff. What the staff presents in terms of their evaluation, we shall adopt. Is that the intent? I'd support the amendment as written on an up or down vote. I would recommend approval of this. Not sure that that's the ideal here, though. I think that the way we usually handle these things is we receive information and recommendations from staff, and then the board has authority over which conditions to include. In a general sense, I think that that's the appropriate way to incorporate feedback from staff. But I don't know, is this staff evaluation, is this something that would take place during our review process, so that there would be back and forth between the board and staff? Or is this something we would be presented with this evaluation from the staff, the same way we're being presented with the application? Those are some questions I have about this.
I think it would be the latter. The applicant would be expected to provide that information, and we would give it to you within the parameters of this. And then the board would have the authority to condition additionally.
Okay?
So I could see where they'd come to you and they'd say, this is what we want to do, and you'd say, well, if this ordinance passed, this is what you have to have as a condition to be met. And then when it came back before us, you'd give it a comment, they have met that requirement, or they have not met that requirement.
Right.
I believe that's how, so they'd meet with you
Right,
first.
yeah.
So it has to be reviewed by Division of Development Services, Transportation, the city engineer, which most of our stuff is anyways, but since the council wants to put the language in that it shall be, that's fine, because we get most of those reviews anyways. This way, some of our on site plan that says, and I think Jerry brought this up most recently in one of our last amendments, was when we read it again, they may comment. And sometimes most of the time we get the comment, sometimes we don't. So in this one, they shall. So if we don't get it, I'm gonna send it back and say, speak to the city manager and the council. Because now it's a shall, not a may. So in this requirement is, they would have to meet with those three and then send recommendations to us. And obviously, we could ask those questions as well, but I think after meeting with those three agencies, between the engineer, the development services, and the transportation, they would know if they have the 1,000 feet all the way around the school, whether it meets that criteria or not. And if it didn't, I'm sure we'd get a negative recommendation. And it says here, we have to accept it as a condition, so we could have put a condition on it saying you have to do it. And if they says we can't, well, that's the condition, because that's site plan approval. If they can't meet that condition, then they can't approve, they can't complete the project.
Is the intent here for us to adopt as a condition what we commonly do, which is we have a condition of one of our special permits that they shall submit a landscaping plan to be approved by DPD? Is the intent here for us to include a condition, they shall submit a sidewalk plan to be approved by these offices?
I understand it as it's a criteria of their application. Prior to,
Yeah.
so
Before it
this
gets
review
to
would
us.
take place prior to the public meeting in front of you. So that a sidewalk analysis would have to happen prior to the meeting.
Yes, the sidewalk analysis. I'm looking at these paragraphs 1 and 2, which are the distinction between the analysis, which is being done by the applicant, and the evaluation, which is being done by the city staff. Where in our process will that evaluation be occurring?
If I just can offer, in section 2, I think it sells it out in the first sentence, such evaluation shall be adopted as a condition of the site plan review.
approval.
So it has to be, for us to incorporate it into the condition, we have to have it prior to making that decision.
Shall be adopted as a
Yeah,
condition.
absolutely.
Okay,
And it says, and it shall be adopted as a condition, so we need it prior to making a decision.
Right. I mean, if they don't give it to us, then the plans, we can say the application for site plan is
I
incomplete,
see.
and we can deny it on
I
its face.
see, I see.
They didn't meet the criteria of the site plan, if it's approved with, as written, unless a discussion, if the council can amend it after they have a full public hearing and discussion.
So if it had said a requirement to perform in the evaluation shall be adopted, that would potentially leave it as something to be done after our approval. But with this says the evaluation has to be done, and then we adopt the language of the evaluation itself. Okay, that's
So I
clear.
imagine how we have that checklist now, like Christine, like, when somebody comes in and files an application, we give them a checklist. If this gets approved, it's gonna be a school, they're gonna look at my sidewalks, that's gonna be on the checklist now, imagine if
Right.
it gets approved at
Yes.
council.
So we'll get-
Yeah, so they have to say, these are the things you have to meet before it gets to us.
Excellent. The fundamental idea here that these applicants for projects like this are going to have to ensure adequate pedestrian access is absolutely appropriate. That's what the city does whenever it builds a school. It's a very strongly held idea in this city that our school should have adequate pedestrian access. There are a lot of kids in our city who walk to school. It's both an acknowledgement of reality and an end state that that we strongly desire. So I'm glad to see something come in like this, so that it's not something that maybe or maybe not gets handled through the permitting process, but that there can be some assurance for us and for the public that it's covered. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Malovich?
I want to concur with all things that were said by my fellow board members. I think it's well-written. It's going to be up to us to give the final approval on anything that's put before us, so I think it's needed. As we went through Middlesex Street, it's obviously a strong tool for us to make sure the safety of the kids going to and from those schools are safe.
Okay, thank you. So what's the request of the board, and we have to make a recommendation to the council in favor or against?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we vote a favorable recommendation for the proposed amendment, noting that it does enhance the safety of any site plan relative to the development of private schools, and would it be a useful tool for the planning board.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Any opposition? No. So the motion carries. It'd be, that now gets referred to the public hearing at the Lowell City Council. Thank you.
Yeah, only makes sense.
Moving along on the agenda, any comments from any further board members?
I have just one quick thing. The Historic Board has been continuously working with the Lapoli Group and the redevelopment of Thorndike Factory Outlet. In fact, we have a meeting in the morning, another design review meeting, that the design keeps evolving out of their architectural group, and it requires, a lot of communication. But it's coming along to the point where they have it on a front burner after a number of months, and it looks good. I have some plans that I can show you after we're finished discussing this, that it'll be a big asset to the city of Lowell as we go forward. That's all.
All right, thank you. Any other board members have any?
Oh,
I'm
and
sorry.
we have I'm sorry, Tom,
That's all right.
March 14th is our next scheduled meeting, which we'll be discussing this and also the new dormitories over by the old Fred C. Church property.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any follow-ups?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and I didn't bring the material with me, and I'm actually going to email it to everyone on the board. I don't know if DPD has received any correspondence, but once again, there's an attempt to revise some of these state zoning laws, and it's currently in committee, which they believe the bill will be coming out of committee later this month. And the representative was at the NEMCOG meeting last night looking for support from the council, and quite frankly, the entire body felt that it was a bit premature. We hadn't had an opportunity to really look at the revisions. It's an attempt to balance the home builders' concerns that they've had with past attempts to revise zoning, and also residents that are concerned about development as well. And we had some elements in that we were somewhat concerned about. A&R approvals were something that was addressed in there, but there was also some elements in there that really created the opportunity for more density, and in some environments that's probably appropriate, in other environments it's not. So I do want to get material out, because I would be willing to get some feedback from everybody as a representative of the planning board on the council before we vote and lend our support to the bill. I'd like to have as much feedback as possible, so even from planning and development. So I will, my attempt to tomorrow, I'll email material out to everybody. So,
Thank you. Anybody else, any follow-up? Anything from staff? I know we've been getting your weekly emails, which have been very,
Yeah, that was good,
Very-
that last
very
one
good.
with the,
I had nothing new. I think we covered it all.
Has the city council heard or acted on that Magnolia Street rezoning?
No, that's the next meeting, I believe.
Next meeting, okay.
Yes. They asked for a continuance to, I think they were going to talk to neighbors.
and if you have any further comments, then we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded?
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Good night, everybody, and thank you.
I'll show you guys these plans.
Yeah, so I took that too, because they went to the neighborhood group.
Yeah.
And,
I saw they, I remember we talked last time, they want to continue for that reason.
yeah, so, and I guess